Hi, it's Alice and I'm back with market update for the Victoria Real Estate Board for January 2026. Let's go. So looking at the sales for January in Victoria, we had a decrease of 20% versus last year, which I was a little bit surprised with. I actually thought that we did better than that, but I guess not. So yeah, there was 339 sales that went through. New listings were down 1%, so there were 1,184 new listings that came to the market. And then active listings, so things that are sitting, we have 2,624 as of the end of January, and that was a increase of 10%. So the sales being so low is a bit surprising, but the inventory climbing is kind of typical. Looking at the sales to listings ratio, we're at about 7.8 months of inventory, which I would call a buyer's market, but some are calling balanced. But that's where we're sitting right now. Looking at single family homes, we actually had a decrease in sales of single family homes in the Victoria core specifically of about 21%, which was surprising. So yeah, the sales overall being low seems to have seeped into single family homes, whereas before it was more contained to condo sales. So we're seeing that the benchmark price for a Victoria core single family home was down 2.5% year over year. So that was at 1.265 million roughly. And looking at the median, it was up 1.5% year over year. So the median isn't quite as bad. It was at like 1.16 million. And that seems about right. You see a lot of sales in the 1.1 to 1.2 range, so it seems about right. Now looking at condos, we were down 25% in sales of condos year over year. So that's a trend that's continued for months though. We've been talking about this. It's been down like 20% last month, I believe, as well. So condos have been struggling. The benchmark price for for a condo in the Victoria core was down 1.5% in the benchmark. So it was at $537,000 roughly. And also the median was down 0.6%, and that was at $546,000. So yeah, condos are just consistently struggling. So there's nothing crazy there. I was more surprised by the single family home sales, but anyways, let's continue on to look at what else is happening in the market. Actually, the only thing that wasn't down sales-wise were townhomes. Their sales were up 2%. Ish, and the median was up around 8.7% for the median price. So it seems like townhomes are that happy medium where people can't get into the house, can't get in the condo, or they don't want a condo, and it's absorbing that middle ground. So they actually did well, whereas every other subclass for the sales in January, everything was down in sales except for townhomes. So no wonder their prices are going up. For Bank of Canada, they actually held the rates. So on January 28th, they did their rate announcement and there was no change. So the policy rate is still at 2.25%. And the next rate announcement will be March 18th, which is my 40th birthday. And so hopefully we get good news for my birthday. Hopefully they will decrease it. I probably think they'll keep it the same, but we'll see what happens with that. Looking at Canadian real estate in general, you probably see a lot of bad news in news articles and online and what have you. So in Vancouver, they're down, I think, 12% from their high for single family home prices. So their high would have been April 2022, I believe. And Toronto, I can't remember what month they're going on, but their 2022 drop to now has been almost 27% in their prices, which is crazy. And across Canada, it looks like prices are down 21% from the peak in 2022. So if it gives you an idea of where provinces are at, even say Nova Scotia was faring really well. They were seeing increases in prices where BC and Ontario were having decreases. But in just December, they had a 3% drop in their home prices, which is quite surprising. The other thing that we're probably seeing in the news, and it's just continuing, and I think I've talked about it before, was the mortgage arrears and delinquencies. So they are up like 45% in the past year in Ontario. Canadian delinquencies are at a 5-year high, I believe. And that's not counting the pandemic. So the pandemic obviously was that spike, but other than that, we're still at a 5-year high. And foreclosures, even on the island, I've been mentioning that. So I looked it up and we have 31 that I can see right now. So for foreclosures or court-ordered listings, like over 30. I've shown 4 of them in the past week, and I used to show 0 any given week. So they're definitely increasing. A lot of monster mansions, I gotta say. Like, I'm not judging. A lot of houses that somebody probably overbought, and c'est la vie, but there are deals out there if you are looking. But they are getting action too. I'm seeing a lot of them getting offers. So yeah, in general, people are looking for deals. A lot of people are trying to shop foreclosures, which is cool. You might want to do some brushing up on the process of what a foreclosure purchase looks like, because it's not the same as a regular house. Yeah, so buyers are getting good deals. I would be careful when you're buying. Just make sure that you're doing price comparables and checking prices of what people are trying to sell for, because there are still some sellers who are pricing with pricing from 3 years ago, and they're hoping to get that. So still some sellers, that a lot of them purchased in 2021, 2022, and they are losing money on their sales, so they're trying to recoup costs. So if I were a buyer, I'd be watching out for that. But yeah, and if you are selling, as I said, you want to make sure you're pricing where the buyers are actually at, because you will just sit otherwise. There's no tricking the market in this day and age. So do price sharply, and you shouldn't sit too long, which would be nice. So that's all I've got for this month, and I'll be back in February with the February stats, and we'll see how it goes next month. And if you did see my update, we did end up losing my beloved dog, Erie. And so I had a very awful New Year's, and January was awful. But I did pray for a new puppy to love, and this one came just effortlessly. If you know how hard it is to get a dog, it's so hard to adopt. And she basically fell in our lap, and her name is Evie. Evie, stand up. Evie, stand up. She said no. Evie is a potato, and she came from Bakersfield in California. She was in a kill shelter, and some kind soul rescued her. And yeah, so she was a street dog, and now she's basically a spoiled princess, so, which I love. Hey, Evie? She said, yeah. So she says hello. Anyways, we'll see you next month.